Hi, my name is Alpha Schulte from Money Made Simple. I'm a money and mindset mentor, and I'm about to be on the Online Prosperity Show talking about money, money stories, money beliefs, how to debunk a lot of them, and how to actually build the life that you want on your terms, your way.
I got a question for you. Are you
Mhm.
ready to finally get your money stuff sorted and be self-empowered? Or have you ever had that sinking feeling that you should be knowing a little bit more about money, but you don't want to admit it out loud and you think, I should know better or I should be doing better? Well, let me tell you something. You are not alone. And today we're going to be diving deep into the story that will make you feel seen, heard, and most importantly, equipped to change that. Now, I want to welcome you to the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place to get real practical advice and often untold insights from people who have cracked the code on problems that you are facing right now. And obviously, I did mention the word advice, but Alpha, if you could just maybe clarify that a little bit, what are we getting into today?
All right, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Yes, no, I definitely will not be providing any advice. What we'll be talking is more sort of money education, my experiences, and some trends and things that I see and ways to help people become more knowledgeable, understanding about money and themselves. Without lots of complication, jargon, yeah, it's going to be more conversational and educational.
Absolutely. And now that we've got all the legalese out of the way, for those that are watching right now, thank you so much for tuning into the Online Prosperity Show. So, our guest today is Alpha Schnoot, and she's the founder of Money Made Simple. And trust me, the name isn't a gimmick. I mean, you should see the earrings that she's got on right now. And she also helps women business owners bridge the gap between mindset and money mechanics, and also connecting their business cash flow with their personal lifestyle goals. And here's where it actually gets interesting. Alpha didn't actually start off as a money wizard. In fact, her early career was filled with shoulds, the career she should take or the path she should follow, things of that nature, until she actually hit rock bottom as a tax accountant and made that gutsy decision to jump into something that now actually lights her up. You should see the outfit she's got going on today. And, I had to take a double take and I'm like, wait a minute, are we, going to a party here or are we actually working? But this is, how Alpha is now showing up. And imagine if that could be you know what I mean? Because not knowing about money or what to do is incredibly frustrating, and nobody really teaches us about money, especially managing the cash flow side of things when you become a business owner. So today we're going to be exploring how that decision that Alpha took, not only to rewrite her career, but also to turn what she's doing into a movement of financial confidence for women and everything else that comes along the way. Now, Alpha, I could go on and talk about things I'm not even qualified to talk about. People would rather talk about sex than talk about money. And here we are today. So take us back to that moment when you realized that being a tax accountant wasn't your forever path.
Yeah, so it's like everyone, it's a journey. And I think whenever we're in school, we're trying to figure out what we want to do, and our education system, there's a lot. I mean, I know it's trying to do a lot, but there's also a lot of holes. And one of them is, how do we even figure out who we are and what it is that we like to do? And just because you might be good at something also doesn't mean that you want to actually make it a career. And just because you like something doesn't mean that you can make that a career either. So it's a sort of journey. And I suppose I came from both my family, so my mother and father and all their families were migrants to Australia. So I was the firstborn in Australia, and And there came a bit of pressure with that as well, as like, we've moved here to make a better life. You need to make something of it. So the pressure was really go to university. And then, of course, became the what do you study question. It's like, well, I had absolutely no idea. And to be honest, to start with, I didn't actually study accounting. I didn't really want to go down that path at all. But I studied business and marketing. But then I couldn't find a job in that field. So I suddenly got offered an interview for a job in an accounting firm. And I was like, but I don't even know why I'm here. I don't have an accounting degree. And so I thought, well, okay, maybe if this is in demand, I'll do that. So I studied accounting. And then I turned out to be quite good at it, which was interesting because I'd never really been all that great at maths at school. But I did quite well with numbers, and I liked data and sort of and I liked the people, which was the interesting thing as well. When I started out as a corporate tax consultant, I was in they were big five. There were 5 big firms back then. Now there's 4. So I started out there at KPMG as a grad, and I found I really enjoyed working with the clients, but I didn't enjoy being a tax lawyer. Lots and lots of legislation and compliance and all of that, and the customers or the clients I was working with had absolutely no idea what was going on. And at the time, I hadn't really connected those dots, so it took a number of years, and then I left working inside the tax company, like the firm. And then I worked for Virgin Airlines for a number of years in their tax team, and realized I enjoyed setting up the systems because it was a pretty rough and ready kind of business back then. And again, I liked the people side of it. And so I thought, but I was absolutely miserable working in that sort of field. It was the same thing every month. We had to do BASs or, your activity statements, and every quarter there was things, and every year there was always just the same. So after realizing that I was not in a happy place, I was in my mid-20s. I was like, I should be a bit more excited about life. So I started to look elsewhere. I love writing, so I did an advanced diploma of professional writing because I thought, well, I'll see if I can pursue that. And I ended up changing careers completely in my late 20s and went off to work for a small management consulting company who were mainly working with mining engineers and mining companies. And I started to enjoy that more. And then I also started to earn more money, ironically. I was, not working in the finance field, and I was earning more money, which seemed strange. But then I also kind of got to this point where I was like, I don't even know what to do with money. Like I've worked in and around numbers for years. I had no idea. Like my parents had no clue about money either. My dad had his own small sole trading business. My mum was a school teacher. They worked hard, had no savings really. My mum lived on credit cards. My dad would spend the cash that he got from his business quite sort of quickly. It's sort of, and that's one of the things I help my clients with, is to understand like what to do with your money, especially if you're using cash, because it can disappear quickly. And so I got a financial planner because I thought that's what you did. I was like, well, how else are you supposed to learn about this? I realized they don't teach you about money. It's kind of like outsourcing it completely. And then when I realized the guy I had couldn't answer any of the questions that I had, I thought, okay, this is not really for me. So then I studied the diploma of financial planning because I thought, well, I'd like to know what's going on. And I learned a lot. And I thought, well, this is stuff that people need to know. So I thought, I started to go down the path to become a financial planner. Then I realized it was just me doing more of the same, like people outsourcing it, and I couldn't really help with the education piece. So I wrote a course, which I was like, this is what everybody needs to know. And then I realized not many people want to know, because it's actually quite confronting when you realize that these are things that we should know and we don't know. So I thought, okay, I need to start to make some changes. And so I was doing all of this in my own life, and without realizing, because of course, the internet, everybody's watching, friends, they're like, oh, what are you doing? Can you show me what you're doing? And I was like, oh, okay. So I then just started to sort of do some money education here and there with people. I ran some workshops, put some more stuff online, and then just started to kind of grow from there. And then I also realized there was a pattern coming in there around the mindset. And all of my clients pretty much were women. And I noticed the trend that they were women business owners, because they were doing what they loved to do, making money, but not being able to keep any of it. And as small business owners or solopreneurs, it was a lot of stress on them to be able to run a profitable business and fund a lifestyle, and they hadn't really figured out how to marry the two up. So that's where I really started helping, because I love systems. I like to be able to help people put things in place that works for them, and then understand why they're doing what they're doing. What do they actually want to achieve? Because we're all kind of like, you grow up, save for a car, save for a house. Like, there's this kind of pattern that we all kind of get kind of locked into without really questioning, is that really what I want? Do I want the big house? Do I want a small house? Maybe yes, maybe no. What sort of, like, do I want a boat? Do I want to travel? Do I want, what kind of car? So all of these questions started to sort of come up, which started out of my journey. And I made some mistakes along the way as well. I ended up in credit card debt as well. Like, I was just sort of like, I can't believe I'm becoming my mother. So I've learned through personal experience, education, and then also now I've learned a lot from working with clients too, to sort of see the struggles and the shame that goes with money as well, which it really, I get very passionate about the mindset side, because there's just so much that we're not taught, not just about money, but about life, and it flows into everything. Anyway, I could monologue for ages because I love this.
I could tell. I was just, while you were talking, I was just looking up on Amazon where I can get a pair of those gorgeous earrings. I mean,
yeah, I haven't actually seen them since my money pigs.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now, obviously, Alpha, and thank you so much for taking us through that. So let's go back a little bit. You did say you were born sort of like first generation from parents that immigrated to Australia. Now, I really resonate with that. Where were the parents coming from?
So my mother moved from Austria, and my father moved from what's called Northern Macedonia now.
Okay.
So yeah.
And okay, so Austria, they speak German. Macedonia,
Yes.
they speak a whole.
They speak Macedonian, which is sort of similar to Serbian, Croatian.
Okay. Fantastic.
It's Yugoslav.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what was the language that was spoken within the household?
Mainly English, because that was the common language between my parents, because they met here. But my maternal grandmother taught me German, so I learned German. So I used to speak German with her and my mum.
Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch.
Good. That's okay.
But what I wanted to drive us to is, what was the language around money, especially
none.
Yes. Right. That's, what did you grow up listening to? Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up with a lot of avoidance. Like, it's interesting. At the time, I didn't kind of notice it, but now looking back, and I've done a lot of work on myself because I also take my clients through this too, is just sort of like, well, I just remember it being an unpleasant conversation. There would be arguments around being able to afford things, and it wasn't quite as straightforward. Like, I tend to see quite a lot, in relationships, one sort of tends to blame the other for either being a spender or too much saving or whatever. With my parents, both of them liked to spend, and they just did it in different ways on different things. But it was never a pleasant kind of discussion. And my parents split when I was 11. So I then got to see two different money kind of stories developing. So I saw my mother's and my dad's, and both of them came from pretty, meager backgrounds as well. So for my dad, there was never any money around when he was growing up. So whenever he did have some, he spent it, because he was used to not having money. So this was an interesting money story that I saw. And my mum used to kind of overextend herself a bit as well, because she's like, I now finally have some. I want to enjoy life. But you don't know what boundaries to put on that. So, but as far as discussions go, nothing, which is probably quite common, I think, for most people.
So, see, in my household, I'm coming from an African background, and my wife is Italian, and our kids, I think they're just there to spend our money. But I notice they take different aspects from each and every one of us, the way maybe I talk, or the way, I handle certain things, and the sort of way they do. Whose side did you pick after the divorce?
In terms of money, that's an interesting one. I think I actually tried to do the opposite of both of them.
Okay.
So I became the saver. So I didn't like spending money at all. I didn't want to have a credit card. When I got my first credit card, because I was traveling overseas on my own, I actually put money on it. Because back in those days, you couldn't have like the debit credit cards like you can now. So, but I was using my credit card like that. So I would spend money on my credit card and then pay it straight on because I didn't want to have any debt on it. So I kind of went the opposite of what my parents were doing because they were spending and building up debt, and some of it was good debt. You know, like they buy a house, buy an investment property, but it was all done very randomly. So yeah, I kind of did the opposite
Absolutely.
to start
So,
with. Although, like I said, I did get into debt in my 20s.
we're gonna get there. But what's now interesting is along the way you carved out an experience of your own, which
Yeah.
you now went on and started either learning, like you said, you learned from the institutions, and you also learned from people that actually do money for a living, the KPMGs and stuff like that. Where did it all
Yeah.
go wrong?
Sorry.
Where did it all go wrong?
I think when I started to, because this is the interesting thing. I was very good at managing money when I didn't have much. When I started to earn a bit more in my 20s, I was like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. This is a new situation. I've never experienced this before. So I think I spent it because I was used to not having it and I was able to manage it better when I had less. And this is where our brains, and when we talk about like habits and things, our brains like familiarity. So we always try to get back to a state that our brains are comfortable with and familiar with. So that's sort of where I ended up. But thankfully I didn't stay there for long, and I kind of went, whoa, how on earth did I get here? Because I thought this was something I would never do, because I was so trying to be like an away from kind of energy,
Mm.
so that when I actually experienced it, I was like, okay, I can't do the away from thing anymore. That's not working. I now need to figure out what it is that I want to do and how I want to be. And that sort of sense of self-identity starts to change, and that's what I then started to work on. So I didn't stay there for long, and I didn't go back either. So
Absolutely. Now, I mean, while you were speaking, you were talking about I should know about this already. That sort of feeling of I've worked around money, and I should know better and things like that. And
yeah.
obviously, it came to your own money. Now, how did you move past that shame or
I don't.
and then actually start learning and figuring it all out?
Yeah, I don't like not knowing or understanding things. I don't like sitting in ignorance, and I don't like relying on other people. So I can get quite stubborn in that way. So I kind of went, well, hang on, I don't know how to do this. I don't really know anybody who does know how to do this. So what do I do? So that was why my first kind of port of call with anything is to educate myself. So that's why I thought, well, again, back then, there was no education around money. So I studied the Diploma of Financial Planning because that was the only thing I could think to do. And then I just started to sort of read articles. I started to watch people. I was reading biographies and autobiographies of people who've been successful in business and life, and sort of thought, well, what are they doing? How does this work? I need to figure this out. And then there's that classic. It's a little bit like, and nutrition or health and money are very, very similar. So it becomes that, when you think of health, like calories in, calories out, eat less than eat, exercise more. Anyway, understand that one. And then so with money, spend less than you earn. So that was like the first step. And I thought, okay, well, I can do that. So let's start there. And then it became, okay, well, then if I have a little bit more now because I'm, spending less than I'm earning, what do I do with that? Like, do I invest it? How do I invest it? What does that mean? So I went and did a share trading course. I joined a property investment, property development meetup group, and started to sort of try and do all this. And then the Barefoot Investor came out with his book, and I was like, okay, let's read that. So I started to sort of amass things and knowledge, but I then had to try and figure out how to actually apply that to me, keeping in mind my personality, my risk profile, my money history, what I wanted out of life. So like my lifestyle vision, all of these sorts of things, they kind of ended up being puzzle pieces that I was figuring out for myself. And once I was able to do that, and you have to you have to be comfortable with it. Other people won't understand what you're doing as well. Because when I left accounting and changed careers, I had friends who didn't understand why I was changing. So I had a bit of judgment around that. I kept the same car for like 20 years. I had a lot of, I got teased a lot for that because I was like, but it's a car, it's a depreciating asset. I don't really want to spend money on a fancy car. I don't care. It's just going to get me from A to B. So there's a lot of like commentary and judgment and things that can sometimes go with not doing things the way everybody expects you to do it. So that's another thing that I had to get comfortable with. And then I think in a way, some of us are needing permission to do that. And I think that's when I have like the clients who come to me, they're like, can I do this? And I was like, well, do you want to do it? And why do you want to do it? Because that part's important too, because when you get pushback from people, you need to stick with your why, not to explain it to them, but to keep it in yourself. So that's that's sort of where the journey kind of had to evolve as a personal journey as well as a money journey.
So from what I'm hearing here is it's not necessarily just money in your wallet or in your bank account. You also need to really go into some sort of transformation, because how you do anything is how you do everything. Now, with this, fish don't see the water that they swim in. If we would look at where you were, especially when the money started flowing in, that became lifestyle creep, other people would have gone in, upgraded the car, upgraded the clothing, upgraded maybe the house, upgraded just about everything else to meet the threshold of where the money is. Like you said, sometimes our brain just wants us to revert back to this. Now, were there any gaps that you maybe started seeing in yourself that you then mentioned, I need to do this differently? Because some people won't be able to see that. They'll just think it's a natural progression. I got a promotion, so I might as well get a new watch or new cashmere sweater
Yeah.
and very nice shoes and nice pants. And
Yes.
nice
Well, yeah, my lifestyle creep came more in the because I love traveling. So
yeah.
I would just travel a little bit nicer. So instead of staying in either backpackers or a 3-star hotel, I might stay in a 4-star hotel, that sort of thing. So that's probably where. But I've never really been particularly attached to like the car or the house. Like I don't care if somebody thinks I look rich from the outside. Like I remember, and this is also all these experiences that we have, I reflect on, and they happen for a reason. My dad went through that phase when he started to kind of, get a lot more financially stable, and he and his second wife bought the big house. I remember walking in there and just going, whoa, who's going to clean it? Like that was my first response. Like, oh my God, the bigger the house, the more cleaning. And yes, you can get a cleaner as well, but then life just gets more complicated. And there's a reason I called my business Money Made Simple. I like simplicity. I don't want too many moving parts. I don't want to have because with more money does come more responsibility as well. So I thought, well, how do I simplify things? So I mean, my husband and I, we have a house that's, it's more than comfortable. We've got a pool, we've got, aircon, like we've got all the comforts that we could possibly have. Is it a mansion? No, but I don't want one either. And we just have a little sedan car, partly because, we have a boat and we need to be able to put the dinghy on top of the car. So, the big cars, we wouldn't be able to do that. And I don't want to have to tow it anywhere. So it's just what is right for you and what is it that you want to actually achieve. For me, it's experiences. Like I love to travel. If I want to go on a helicopter ride over the Grand Canyon, yes, I want to be able to do that. If I want to do something else that's special, like I have, my little bucket list of things that I want to do, then I want to be able to spend money on that rather than the things, So that's where understanding what becomes important and having a why and having a purpose for your money becomes important. Because if you don't have a purpose that's bigger than just stuff, the money will just go to the stuff. But if you have a bigger reason, like, being able to, like my daughter's 10, I want to be able to take her places. She's been to quite a few countries. We do lots of things together. I love to be able to do that and give her those experiences, travel to places in the world where she can see things she wouldn't normally see and be able to grow as a person that way. To me, that's more important than whether or not she's got a PlayStation or whatever else's things, which I don't even know how they work. So yeah, we don't have any of that kind of fancy stuff because I wouldn't have a clue. So
Absolutely. And what I like about this is you're putting out your value system, and this is basically what you like and how you want your world to be, whereas everybody else is looking at John from down the road who's just got a Tesla after Tesla, latest model, and they feel like they have to keep up with those Joneses. Now, you said with what you're saying, you maybe value traveling, and that's a values alignment, and it plays a big role in money decisions. Now, for somebody who's watching right now, how can they tell maybe if whatever financial decision they're making is not to please the masses, but it's actually a choice that actually aligns with their values?
I think the first thing, and values is a really big part. So when I work one on one with people, the first session we have is always we talk about values. We do a values discovery session, so we don't even talk about money really in the first session. But I think we all know inside. So it's one of those things. I think it's just allowing us the space and the quiet to be able to go in. Quite often, a telltale sign is what do you feel like in the morning when you wake up. If you're excited to get out of bed, and sometimes I get it, it's early in the morning or it's cold and those sorts of, external factors. But generally speaking, are you kind of excited to do the things that you're going to do, or, understand why you're doing what you're doing? And if the answer is no, more often than yes, then there's something misaligned in there. And to be honest, most of the time we know nothing about, there's no knowledge that we can ever give anybody that will help them understand them better than they actually do themselves. It's just a matter of allowing ourselves to acknowledge it, bring it out into the open, and then make our decisions aligned to that in a way that it doesn't matter what anybody else says. And if there's people around you who actually care about that, then you might want to have a look at who you're hanging out with. And that's why, there's even family members, and I get that sometimes a little bit tricky. You just have to really watch what you tell certain people in your family, because if they're going to judge you for it, then they don't need to know.
You see, I don't know about you, Alpha, maybe with the Austrian background and the Macedonian background, you don't have Auntie Sally who knows everything about real estate, about shares, about the lottery, anything else that has got money involved in it, and the super that everybody, needs to be paying and things of that nature. How do you then lovingly avoid being around people that seemingly know a lot about finances, yet they are swimming in debt themselves or something like that?
Well, and ultimately, I think it's just about allowing people to be who they are. And if people have knowledge of things like the share market or whatever, I'm always happy to listen. But one of the things I found interesting is whenever I've been doing my work, I don't tend to attract the people who want to know about cryptocurrencies or how to do like get rich quick or property flipping or all of that, because that's, and there's people who specialize in that. And for some people who want to know that is perfect. But there's people around me, I don't know. I feel like after a while, you just tend to attract the people that are aligned with who you are. And that's not to say you want everybody to agree with you and only the people who have the same knowledge as you to be around you. Sometimes it's really, really good. That's one of the reasons I love going to different networking groups and like to be in different rooms with different people, to hear about what they have to say, to learn, because I don't know everything. But where the misalignment is when someone's trying to be something they're not. Or that whole, oh, look at my Ferrari. I was like, okay, cool. You may have just hired that for the photo shoot. Like, I don't know. Like, and even if you haven't, that's great. If that's what you wanted and you've managed to get it, then that's fantastic. I don't see the point of driving a sports car when I can only do it 60 kilometers an hour through the streets of the city. If I was just in Germany for a month because my husband's German, and visiting his family. And so we were doing some traveling, and on the Autobahn, then you're like, yeah, that would make a car like that worthwhile. But in the day-to-day, it would just be frustrating.
Oh, I can imagine. It was just yesterday. I was sitting at the lights, and some guy with a yellow Porsche was trying his hardest to speed between 50 meters of lights. He would go and then stop and then, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you might be actually hurting the engine with
Yeah, 0 to 60 in what, 2 seconds? Okay.
2 seconds, and you're stopping again.
Yep.
And I was just noting at him saying, you know what, I might arrive 3 seconds later, but here we are again.
Yeah,
So
that's it. The next set of lights. Yeah.
so let's maybe talk about money made simple. I mean, obviously, it's not simple starting a business, and obviously coming from where you came from and things of that nature. So tell us, I mean, you're coming from a space where you're trying to organize your own piggy bank, managing numbers and things of that nature. What was the hardest part or the scariest part, managing numbers or managing your own self-doubt?
I think the mindset side. So I always say that business is like a personal development journey on steroids. So yeah, I think it's that part because there's a lot of people who talk about money and different things, and you're like, well, who am I? Am I adding any value? What I'm saying is so simple. Don't people know this? Like, it's there's a lot of simplicity to it. But I think that's where the beauty in the simplicity is, and I think also that bringing the mindset with the money and looking at how to just set it up. It's almost like I said, giving people permission to do it in a way that suits them, and then making sure that the business is paying them the amount that they need to pay themselves. So the things that I do with my clients, I've had to do for myself too. So I can understand the challenges that go with it because cash flow in a business is very up and down, especially where I realized probably took me longer to realize this than I should have, is that I was kind of educating the market as I was running my business too, because accountants deal with a lot of compliance. So, and then there's the sort of the strategy side, but not many of them do that. But yet their clients assume that they do. So then there's this mismatch of expectations, which is where people get satisfied with their accountants. And I was like, well, but they're there to help you with your tax return. They're not necessarily there to help you with strategy or to help you understand how to manage money or cash flow. And then there's no one necessarily who really does that, and especially not in the personal space. So I've had to sort of navigate that myself too, as to what do I want to do as a business owner and how do I want to operate and what kind of niche you're in. Because in the beginning, you kind of start out thinking, oh, everyone is my market, and this is all the things that that everybody needs to know. And then, like I said, I started to realize that wasn't actually the case. So I've had to sort of navigate the business side as well as the mindset side and just generally, and it's a constant change. It's a constant growth, a constant learning. It's even up until the beginning of this year, I think I had a little bit of a dip because I was doing things online and wondering why I was feeling miserable in my business because I was going, I really prefer working with people. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to the old like consulting model when I was a management consultant. And I was self-employed for a few years. I thought, I'm going to go back to that style. I liked that better. I can deal with people. I can do workshops. I can do collaborations. I can speak. I can, educate, do the things that I really love to do. So I think as a business owner, it's just learning that it's not a stagnant journey. It's a constantly evolving one. And then trying to match the money around all of that. But it definitely starts more up here than anything else. But you need to have your systems in place too.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for doing that. Now, I can imagine, you see, when you're working for yourself, especially as a business owner, money usually is one of the trophies of you actually doing or serving other people because that's how you are acknowledged for service. And it's kind of difficult to have somebody speaking to you from somewhere else and you feel like they are not actually seeing what you're doing. And I think the in-person setup is quite formidable, especially in this side of things, because I'm gonna have to open up to a lot of things that I'm not even opening up to maybe people that are really close to me.
Yeah.
So and what's been the sort of response from people when you started doing the face-to-face
Much better. I managed to, I don't know, I seem to attract clients from different, and I get a lot of referrals too. I think because you're right, it's a very vulnerable space with money. I'm sort of seeing into people's worlds. It's I can see what's going on. I can see what's working, what's not working. And it's a matter of kind of looking at it as looking at the person and helping the person, but then also looking at the money and going, okay, well, this is a lot of it is just the mechanics then. If you don't know what to do, then that's, how else will you find out unless you ask questions and someone shows you how to do it and just sort of setting it up. And quite often it's visibility. I find a lot of people don't have the visibility over their money because everything nowadays sits inside a computer. No one like back in the old days, especially from a personal finances perspective. You'd go and take out your spending money, and then that would be your spending money, and you'd have your envelopes, and it'd be a lot easier. Now it's a lot less visible. And even trying to teach my daughter about money when we go out places, and they're like, "Oh, we don't accept cash." It's like, oh my goodness, I'm trying to teach my daughter how to budget here, and she can't like physically use cash. Makes it really hard. So as grown-ups, it makes it even harder because you just like tap. There's just this magic card thing that just, or a watch. Like there's so many different, or phones. There's so many different ways that people can pay for things nowadays. That it adds to that level of angst I think that people have around money. So yeah, opening up to someone becomes a big issue. But yeah, fostering trust is a big part of it. And when you're doing it in a group, it's the right type of people and making sure that the right personalities are there. And I partner with some others as well. So I have an accountant that I recommend people to, and I do workshops with, and a finance broker. And so collaborating together so they get more complete information all in one place so that you can ask questions, you can learn and grow, and in a very safe environment. So that's the sort of things that I enjoy doing, and I find people respond to that, especially
Now,
women.
I mean, obviously, somebody might be looking at this and saying, "I'm not KPMG trained," and it used to be the big five, now is the big four, because maybe Alpha really consolidated them and made sure that the other one is non void, because that's how good she is with money. You know what I mean? And I didn't grow up in a space like this. You've had clients maybe come back to you with success stories, even months or even years later, because I think this thing starts working a little later, because if you stick with the habits, then it will actually then pay off dividends later, and obviously the compounding starts coming in. What's one sort of testimonial that's really made you stop and think, this is why I do this? I mean, you don't have to mention names and things like that, otherwise
Yeah.
I would meet them today and I'll be like, drinks on you, because Alpha told me you're Mr. Moneybags now.
Yeah, there's a few actually that have really stood out. I think probably the one main one was when I had a client come to me, and this was more for personal finances, and the request was, oh, I would, I want you to help me set myself up so I can leave my husband. And I was like, oh, right, that's like, no, I'll help you get yourself sorted. So basically, we worked together over a 6 month period. And it got to the end, and then off we sort of went. And I'd stay in touch with my clients. And then it was probably a year later when, we'd been in touch for a bit. And I was like, so how are things going? She's like, oh, great. It's going so well. I realized I didn't actually want to leave. I just needed to feel more comfortable that I could if I ever wanted to. And I was like, okay. She said, but we're doing so much better now because the money side, we're now more aligned. I'm talking to him about it. We're actually sitting down, we understand each other. And I was like, oh, wow. So I felt quite happy that I wouldn't say saved a marriage, but certainly managed to help it stay together. And they're still together, actually, because this was now like 3 or 4 years ago, I'd say. So that was a nice one. And then others are just sort of probably more sort of smaller, in that their wins of like paying their tax bill in one go, or having the money in their accounts to pay the bills that they need, or the unexpected things, and paying school fees out of personal bank accounts instead of business bank accounts, things like that, where they're just feeling a little bit more secure. But no, the relationship one, that was probably one that really stood out.
Absolutely. So I'm going to add that to your credentials: financial planner, accountant, plus marriage advisor slash.
Oh yeah, that one was definitely a left field one. I was like, okay, yeah,
It
no,
comes
anyway.
with the territory. But I mean, obviously, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to money. Money doesn't grow on trees. I'm not made of money, and all those things that people grow up sort of learning and things of that nature. What's one that so many people actually believe, but yet it's the one thing that should actually be, they should be very, very cognizant of, especially smart business owner, that
Yeah.
smart business owners, that they get wrong?
Yeah, the one I probably hear the most, and I'm even guilty of this in my early journey, was you have to be good at maths to be good at money.
Mm.
I hear that one a lot, and it's simply not true. There's so much that's, yeah, you do not have to be good at maths to be good at money. Yes, money is numbers and math is numbers, but they're completely different. And the way you manage it's totally different. And what it means is different for everybody. So that's probably the main one that I hear a lot that I would debunk.
I said, well, there I was already just trying to calculate how much, I need to be saving in order for me to be rich
But,
enough for
but
that Ferrari
yeah, but
you're
it
talking
becomes the
about.
meaning. Yeah, it
I,
becomes the meaning of what you want, why you want it. And it's, yeah. And yes, you can add things up. But when we think maths, I don't know, I think it's just that level of complexity. Oh, I need to understand fractions and divisions. And to be honest, the only element of maths that's useful to money is compounding. Like you mentioned that word before. That is the biggest thing that if anybody learned anything in maths, and this I'm already explaining compounding to my 10-year-old, is understand how compounding can work for you and it can work against you. But you need to understand it so that when you work with both sides of it, you actually can make better decisions. That's pretty much the only part of maths I think is actually relevant in a,
so
substantial way.
like I think it was Einstein that said it is the eighth wonder of the world. Those that understand it earn it, those that don't pay it, and it's just that distinction that people need to actually understand. But with money, from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen for the learning to actually go on. Then there might be Sally who's just sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm too old. I can't even get started on this. My brain
Yeah.
can't even match what was that compounding thing you're talking about, and all of
Mm.
those C words that come along with it." But I've
Yeah.
got to ask you, you had to learn all of these credentials and learn how to money. And you even also had to learn how to ride a bike in your 30s. What's up with that?
Hmm. Yeah, neither of my parents, I don't know, biking just wasn't really a thing. And I had a little strawberry shortcake tricycle when I was, I don't know, 4 or 5, and I fell off it. And my dad, being a, very energetic Eastern European, threw it in the bin, and I never got another bike. So, and whereas my husband being German, it's a very biking culture. So that was always one of the things I wanted to learn how to do. So I learned when I was, yeah, it's a lot harder when you're in your 30s to learn to ride a bike. But yes, but you essentially can learn anything. And as far as when it's too late, of course, compounding works better over time. So the earlier that you start, the better. That said, though, I have most of my clients are over 45. They're probably between 45 and 55. And there's still things you can do in that span of time that can actually improve things. Ultimately, though, it's about putting money aside, investing it. We have the superannuation system in Australia, which is sort of a more tax effective way of investing because you only pay 15% tax in your super fund. And it's there to create the discipline as well to give you money in retirement to allow you to have a bit more comfort. That said, I also do suggest investing outside of super as well, just so that you get choices. So I think it's just if you don't know the answer to something, ask the question. Ask somebody who's done it before. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that I can. Just don't ask me about crypto. But just do something. Don't just do nothing. Read like the Barefoot Investors book. Scott Pape. His stuff has a lot of really good. That's really great basic information. There's some of the like the mindset, lifestyle stuff, values that needs to kind of go alongside that too. But from a fundamental perspective, there's so much really good information out there. Trust yourself. I would say is probably one of my biggest things is just trust that you know what you need to do and what life you want because nobody else knows that. And that's something that quite often we don't afford ourselves the time or the effort to figure out.
Mm, absolutely. And from what I'm seeing and hearing, your business isn't just about numbers, right? It's not just about spreadsheets and just making
No.
sure, what do you call it in accounts? The T accounts,
Or
the
your
stuff.
profit or loss or your balance sheet.
I
Yeah.
feel like it's about giving people back to themselves, especially permission to design the life that they actually want. Does this feel true for you?
Absolutely. And if they're a business owner, the business they want to fund the life they want. But ultimately, it starts with what life do you actually want to lead?
Mhm.
And then the business can fund it.
Absolutely. But somebody might also be sitting here, like you said, you could look up all this information, Google it up and stuff like that. So if I can just Google financial tips for free, what should I pay for help? What's your answer to that?
Well, if you can do it, because the thing is that people can do it themselves. But like most things, you can do it. It's just we don't often know ourselves well enough. So it's then having someone to talk to bounce the ideas off, to
Mhm.
help see it. So what I tend to do that works well for all my clients is we put everything on paper and we run scenarios. So I run scenarios that like if nothing changed, this is what it would look like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Mhm.
If we look at your cash flow, we make some tweaks and we can make some improvements. Let's see how that will improve the future view. So I run different scenarios so people can just see what little tweaks they can make and the improvements and the differences they're going to make over time. So that's generally where I find people don't tend to know how to do that. And that's where I add the extra value plus just the general information that you can get it all, you can get a lot of it in one place, and also kind of give ideas they might not have thought about before, and to allow people the ability to express their thoughts out loud in a safe environment where they can talk about it, where they're not going to be judged. And I often have my clients bring in their partners, and so they can have those conversations together with a neutral third party who they don't need to kind of feel bad about not having the conversations with their partner or it gets too heated. So I'm there to mediate, not as a proper mediator, but just as a sounding board.
Oh, I can imagine because when money is involved, there's a lot of emotion that rides on that, and especially when the other person doesn't understand what the other person actually does, and that's where so much of the heated sort of arguments sort of come together. So now that you've mentioned there's a lot of hand holding and things of that nature, now I understand why people need to come and see you, maybe preferably face to face. And where would people go to start this journey for themselves?
So they can go to my website, which is money-madesimple.com.au, and from there you can find me. This you can find all my socials links from there. There's a lot of freebies that you can download. I have a free clarity chat, so the website's probably the best place to go because then you can find all different ways to get in touch with me that way.
Absolutely. I'll definitely put this information in your show notes, and definitely, people can get to connect with you that way. Now, I mean, Alpha, there's a lot we could talk about, especially when it comes to money. You know, how can I get more?
So, I'm trying to think. So the best, like I said, the clarity chat's probably a good one. I do have free checklists and things on my website. And in terms of working with me, if anybody's interested, I do one-off sessions, and then I have a 6-month program. And then there'll be different workshops and things. I've actually got another workshop I'm working on at the moment with this accountant and finance broker. We're doing a back by popular demand workshop in October, but that'll be in Brisbane. But otherwise, yeah, I can, yeah, either in person or I do Zoom sessions too.
Absolutely. Now, see, when we started this conversation, you introduced us to tax accountant Alpha, who was trying to get things going on and stuff like that. If she shows up in your world right now and she needs help to sort out her life, and maybe you meet her on her lunch break, which I think she would have been really, really busy, and you maybe only have 2 seconds to just let her know what it's all gonna be like. What would you tell her right now?
Really just probably relax and enjoy the journey and everything that's meant to happen will happen. And to not get too tied up in the shoulds.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I mean, everybody just
Yeah.
wants
Or I
to
should be doing this, or I should
should
be
be
doing
doing
that, or I should know how to do this.
and shooting all over themselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. But last but not least, if somebody has been maybe putting off sorting their finances, what's the very first step that they need to do? And why is now a time to take the action, not
Yeah.
later?
I would say, well, compounding is one reason why to do it now. If you look at money now versus money in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it can grow very, very quickly. Even just putting $100 a month aside can grow into tens of thousands of dollars. And if they're avoiding it, I would say you've got to look at why it's being avoided and what sorts of things. Is it the too hard conversation? Is it you just don't know? Are you afraid of becoming like, the story or the what you saw your parents growing up? And just, I suppose, looking at recognizing the fact that you have your own power and you have the power to make choices and changes. And you can do that whenever you want. And if you can do that whenever you want, why not just do it now? Because there'll always be that tomorrow. And my father died quite suddenly about a month ago, and there was one of those things that kind of came to me. I was just like, what are you waiting for? Like, whatever you want to do in life, just do it now, because there is no time like now. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. That said, though, there will be a lot of tomorrows, hopefully, for most of your listeners. But don't put it off. There's no reason to put it off, and you are capable. I think that's the one thing we need to tell ourselves, is that we are all capable. If we want it, we'll make it happen. And I know you're capable. It's just you need to know it too.
That's amazing. I'm sorry to hear about your dad. But I mean, obviously, we've come all, in this journey. We now at least a little bit braver than we started to figure out money. But
Hopefully.
now that you've brought us in your world, what's next? What are you working on that we can be excited about, that we can jump onto and
I've
be a
got some
part of?
big things coming. I'm writing a book at the moment, which hopefully will be ready next year. And I'm also turning the tool I use with my clients into a software to make it super duper simple. So that's hopefully beginning of 2026, all of that will be launching together. So they're my next two big projects.
Now, Alpha, you had done so well. A whole hour without you committing the ultimate sin on the online prosperity show. You just had to go there.
Had to go where? What's next?
Well, you do not mention that you're writing a book and not pledge that you're going to have to launch it on the online prosperity show. So you've got 2 seconds
Well,
to
happy to come back.
redeem yourself.
Well, this has been so lovely. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Fantastic. Now we are good. We can rest easy. Fantastic. I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience is so valuable for a lot of people, because so many of us just resort to head in the sand. And I think there's an Australian thing, should be all right, mate. You look at your bank
Yeah.
account today and you'll be like, I'm a business person, somebody somewhere is going to pay me and it'll figure itself out, and before you know it,
Yeah.
you're not with it. So thank you so much for obviously going through this and letting us know that whatever it is you're going through, one day you'll have a good story to tell, not only in your life but also on the online prosperity show. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Now, if for those that are watching, if there's one thing that Alpha's journey shows us, it's this: your money story is not fixed. Actually, it's written in pencil and you
Mhm.
hold the eraser. And, it's just one of those things that you can rewrite it and you can relive it, the way that you want it to be. So whether you're untangling your business or just your personal finances, or just maybe trying to figure out how to stop money from running your life, I think today's conversation just gave you that roadmap to get started. And if you maybe know somebody who's been maybe stressing over money or just hasn't been, themselves lately, and you may think that money could be the issue, I encourage you to just slide this episode into their DMs. Say nothing, just let them know that they can be seen, they can be heard, and there's people out there that know how to untangle them from whatever it is, because you never know who could be, you know, maybe you could be handing them the exact perspective shift that they are waiting for. And if somebody has sent this video to you, the next time you see them, just give them a hug because they really care about you more than you actually think. And while you're at it, subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show so you do not miss out on any of these topics that might actually give you a happier and meaningful existence. And I'll be putting all those links that Alpha mentioned in the show notes so that you too can get started on your journey. Okay. Until next time, I encourage you to just maybe take a look at your financial story. And if it's the one that you want, good. But if it's not, hey, maybe today is the day you could start rewriting it. Bye for now.